If you're traveling to Vietnam or anywhere in Southeast Asia very soon, we have some very important advice for you.
We have actually been in Vietnam for the last month. Not that you would know because we've barely filmed anything at all. We've learned so much while we've been here, and we are just distilling it all down into one video of everything you need to know, not just about Vietnam, but about what you see online about Vietnam and Southeast Asia and how to combat some of that information, because we found that it's just not always true.
So the first thing that we found after actually traveling to Vietnam and being here for a month is that a lot of the recommendations, and I think most of the recommendations online, are dominated by the budget travel influencers and travelers that are putting their information out there.
And that could be great if you are traveling on a budget, but I think realistically most people aren't traveling on $5 or $10 US a day anymore. I think a lot of people actually fall into the mid-range travel group, and even if you're falling into that luxury range travel group, lucky you, by the way, but Vietnam still has a lot to offer, and you're not finding that information online because everyone is so focused on how to get the cheapest food possible and the cheapest coffee possible.
So when you see those recommendations, you're going to find that a lot of things that are highly valuable, so low cost, high return on the investment, are left off of the discussion entirely, just because they are not the cheapest thing available to do.
And when you focus on that, you're missing out on a lot of the experiences that you get in a country, particularly the cultural experiences and the social experiences. And we'll touch on those more later in the video.
So yes, Vietnam is very cheap, but more importantly, it's a country of incredible value when you travel here. The Independence Palace.
I haven't even seen it yet. I was just looking at it in the camera.
So there it is. And because of that emphasis on cost that we were just talking about, it does blur the perception of each of the cities and locations that Vietnam has to offer.
Starting in Hanoi up north where we started, we found that because all the information that we took in online was laser focused on the cost, that it avoided a lot of really important information that would have been nice to know having shown up in Vietnam for the first time. Hanoi is a crazy culture shock if you are from the West and you haven't experienced much of the East, from the traffic to the sidewalks to just honestly this communist bubble that you are entered into as an American, that you're just kind of not prepared and you're like looking everywhere like, oh my god, what do I do with all of this information and how do I process this? That being said, we absolutely loved Hanoi for those reasons, and I'm not saying they're bad, but because everyone was so focused on like, oh, it's just super cheap and you'll be able to do this and do that, no one really talks about like, hey, the first day there might be a little hard for you. And so we felt a little isolated when we first arrived.
And then Da Nang, on the other hand, what a culture shock in that it's a culture vacuum. It's so shocking that there's no culture there at all in our experience. It is billed online as this digital nomad haven, and people seem to really recommend it. So we booked a little bit of extra time there, and going there, it really feels a little empty. It feels heavily gentrified and inauthentic. Again, on the opposite side of what you experience in Hanoi, which is deeply steeped in culture and something that you should prepare for. Nothing can really prepare you for Da Nang, where it just feels like a beach and some coffee shops around it. And yes, it is very cheap, but that shouldn't be the only point of decision making when you decide to go to a place.
Honestly, Da Nang reminded me a little bit of Los Angeles, if you've ever been there, how everyone is in their own little bubble, very face down in their phone or on their laptop, and just like connected to their own world instead of participating in a collective world. Maybe it was just our experience. We're not people who drink and go out to bars, so we didn't get to experience like the camaraderie of the nightlife aspect, but during the day in the coffee shops and just on the streets, everyone felt a little tense, and that social tension and being a part of that digital nomad space I think again just highlights that it's not all about like, oh, your dollar is just going to go really far here. It's like, what's that experience going to be like when you get there? Because for us, it wasn't that great.
And then last but certainly not least, you have Ho Chi Minh City, aka Saigon here in South Vietnam, often dismissed in online discourse for being not as good as the other places because it is a little bit more expensive than the other places.
It's so sad that it's actually dismissed. It is the biggest city in the country, so it is going to be a little bit more expensive in terms of food. Actually, our accommodation is the same amount for what we paid in Da Nang. So we haven't found the accommodation to be more expensive, but what we have found to be more here is the cultural value. So when you're totally focused on how far your dollar is going to get you, you can miss out on a lot of really valuable experiences, and a lot of those we've had here in Saigon. There is so much here to learn in terms of the culture, especially if you've already been up north, to compare what you've learned to the sentiments down south.
Here there's a more capitalist feel versus the communist feel that you have up north. There seems to be an undercurrent of independence or individual identity. You hear the term a lot, Saigonese, when you're down here, and it's just a very complex and very rich text. When you start talking to people and seeing the history in this region, it is an incredible value for your dollar, even though you're paying a little bit more.
We're dressed for dinner now.
Check it out.
You're in different clothes too, right?
Yes.
Okay. I couldn't remember what you were wearing before.
Yeah, I'm wearing my glasses to show that time has passed.
Time has passed.
Mm-hmm. So all in all, we just want to recommend that when you're looking at opinions online, maybe take it with a grain of salt. And this is coming from people who post their opinions online, okay? If you aren't a budget traveler, maybe you want to seek out a couple different types of opinions of people who might be more in line with how you want to travel.
And when it comes to countries where budget travel is kind of king, and that's most of the content you're going to find, I just want to stress so much that these countries, there's so much more to them than just your dollar going far. Even if you're just a mid-range traveler or if you're a luxury traveler, you're still going to get an incredible experience out of these countries because they have so much more to offer than just how much is your dollar going to get you.
So for sticking around this long, we will give you some of our top recommendations for Vietnam if you are not a budget traveler and you're willing to spend a little extra more money.
For a lot more experience.
Mm-hmm. One of the first things that we would recommend if you're in South Vietnam here in Saigon would be a tour of the Chu Chi or Cu Chi tunnels. And
it's Cu Chi.
Okay.
It's not disputed.
What was disputed is how I was going to say it.
Okay.
So the first thing that we would recommend if you're down here in South Vietnam, in Saigon, would be a tour of the Cu Chi tunnels and the Mekong River Delta. It's about $35 per person, which is more per person than our accommodation for 2 people here tonight. So just put the price in perspective. But you're gonna get an incredible, truly incredible day for that.
We booked a 12-hour tour, and that's what you get for that cost. Of course, the cost goes up from there as well. I think some of them are priced even up to $200 or $300 per tour if you're getting more of a private tour. We went with the group one because we're still on a budget a little bit.
Mid-range, baby.
Mid-range travel, but like Eric said, it's 100% worth it if you are willing to spend the extra money. You're going to get so much information culturally about the war and a local that you get to ask your questions to about all of these topics if it interests you. If you are up in northern Vietnam, we highly recommend the Sunworld Fansipan mountain experience. Is that what it's called?
It has too many different types of the experience. It has too many different names. But yes, it's Fansipan, Sunworld, Legend.
Oh, I knew I missed something. It's legendary. How did I miss that?
That's right. We actually did a full video on this. It's up on the channel now. It is incredibly touristy. Just want to put that out there.
And they will try and get your money at every single turn. It's very corporatized, very not Vietnam in that sense. But it's one of those activities that brings you up into the mountains when otherwise you may not go up there to the top of Indochina, which is just a really cool experience. And you get to do what they claim is the world's longest and highest cable car. It's highly disputed. A lot of people claim that, so I don't know the facts behind that, but it was pretty high and pretty long.
It feels like it, okay? So yeah, you get the experience either way.
This one is not as specific, but I'm gonna go out on a ledge here and say literally any museum that has an entrance fee in the country of Vietnam is going to be worth it. All of the ones that we did were highly worth it for us, and Vietnam just has such an interesting culture and history. It is entirely worth diving into, and it hurts my soul when budget travelers skip museums, because it's like, are you even visiting the country if you're not getting the cultural immersion and understanding the history? You can debate me in the comments, but personally, I think it's worth it.
And speaking of going out on a ledge, the last thing that I would recommend would be to go to the Skydeck here in Saigon. It is, I believe, $10 USD per person, but you get to go out, I think it's the highest observation deck in the country, and see the beautiful city at night, and we're gonna do that here right now.
Time to go.
So like this video, subscribe for more. If you have any questions or comments on mid-range travel versus budget travel and some of the experiences that we've had here in Vietnam or Southeast Asia, leave them down below.
Let us know, and keep following along for more travel like this if it's interesting to you.
Because next we're headed to Cambodia.
Tomorrow!
See you there.
Bye!